People listen to those who are peaceful. Those who are violent aren't worth listening to at all. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now before I get into it, please like and share this video to give it a boost. In this video, I'm going to give my response to the Dear White People article written by Patrick Benjamin in the Milwaukee Independent. So let's get into it. From the Milwaukee Independent. Dear White People, if you have ever said any of these things, then you are part of the problem. My dear white friends, I'm about to lay some hardcore truth on you right now. Many of you are the problem. Yes, you read that right. Many of you are the reason why these riots are happening. Many of you are the reason why it has come to this. This is especially true if you've ever, and especially in the last weeks, said any of the following. Number 1. It's awful, but. No buts. In the English language, the word but is often used to deflect or to justify behaviour. Police murdering black people in the street is awful. Period. End of discussion. Alright, now I agree to this one to a degree, although I do have one concern with this. The phrase end of discussion is usually used as a diversionary tactic to move away from a point that's being discussed. Now, this is usually because that the person that says end of discussion aren't confident in their ability to argue the point if it is discussed any further. Number 2. I support the movement, but not these disruptive protests. No, you don't. Right now the movement is taking the form of disruptive protests. They are the same thing. You either want police to stop murdering black people in the street or you don't. If you do, then support the protests, even if you find them disruptive and frustrating, because that's black people fighting for their lives. Alright, for this one it's actually a lot simpler. I support the peaceful protests. I do not support the riots. It's as simple as that. Just because something wrong has happened to you or your community doesn't mean that you are morally justified to do something wrong in response. Two wrongs never make a right. Never. Number 3. All lives / white lives matter too. No one said they didn't. The conversation is specifically about black lives right now because police are murdering them in the street. Until police stop doing that and white people stop dismissing it, it's not all lives matter. It's most lives matter. It's not all lives until black lives matter too. Stay focused. This is a common argument that you hear. That no one said white lives don't matter or that all lives don't matter. Thing is, no one said that black lives don't matter either. To be honest, it is actually Black Lives Matter, the movement, that don't believe that all black lives matter. Because if they did, they would be fighting for all black lives, not just those taken by police officers. Did David Dawn's life matter? Or Dave Patrick Underwood's? Italia Marie Kelly? David McAtee? Chris Beatty? Did their lives matter? Yet you won't hear any of the Black Lives Matter fighting for them. I can tell you the vast majority of them won't even know their names. Kind of sad, really.
Number 4. There are good cops. This isn't about the actions of individuals. It's about systemic, state-sanctioned violence against black people and other people of colour. In fact, racism, historically and currently, is so embedded in policing that even if there weren't any bad cops, racism and racist police practices would still exist. Police forces are there to protect and advance the status quo. Period. The same so-called good cops who are sharing BLM hashtags and are kneeling with you now won't think twice about kneeling on your neck at a later time. And if you think you're a good cop, but are silent when confronted about human rights abuses, then how good are you?
Okay, so much wrong with this one. If you don't change the behaviour of the individuals in a crowd or a group of people, then you won't change the behaviour of that crowd or group at all. And to be honest though, it kind of sounds that Patrick is arguing that good cops can't exist. Because apparently the whole system is so corrupt that if there are good people in the police force, they're just as corrupt. Now I do hope I'm wrong in that interpretation, but judging by how it's phrased, I think I'm actually on the right track with this guy's train of thought there. It's quite disturbing, I think.
Number 5. I don't support the looting and destruction. No one says you have to. But please stop acting like looting nullifies the entire protest, and definitely stop acting like looting is just as bad. That's like comparing someone stealing your car to someone murdering your child. They're not equally bad. Stop pretending they are. Police murdering black people in the street is definitely worse than robbing a Target.
Right. The thing is, the voices of the peaceful protesters would be more clearly heard if there was a divide between the peaceful protesters and the rioters. The problem is that the media has talked about both groups as if they are one. And another thing, and I'll preface this by saying I want to talk about the people. And when I say the people, I mean people who aren't interested in politics, who don't follow it, who just look and see the first thing they see. They interpret the first thing they see. The people aren't seeing the peaceful protests. They're seeing the riots and looting. What kind of message do you think that gives them? And it's actually clear if you look at the opinion polls that the riots have had a negative impact on the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter was the most popular it has ever been in the initial phase of the protest, when it was peaceful. But the support dropped dramatically when the riots began. And also, more people are dying from the riots. David Dawn again is a great example of that. A life for life is never justice. Never.
Number 6. Just because I'm white doesn't mean my life has been easy. Of course not. Everyone struggles. But being white has never been one of those struggles. Being poor is a struggle. Being handicapped is a struggle. Being a woman is a struggle. Being gay is a struggle. Being an immigrant is a struggle. But being white has never been a struggle. The same can't be said for people of colour. I could go on and on about white privilege, but it would be so much easier if you educated yourself instead. This isn't about how you, a white, cisgender, straight man or woman, has suffered in your life. This is about police murdering black people in the street. Stop trying to make it about you.
Alright, a number of assumptions here. Is Patrick saying that straight, white, cisgender men cannot live in poverty or can't have a disability? Because that's false, man. False. Also, I'm a little confused about Patrick's opinion of women and the privilege that they have or might not have. It's because at first he says being a woman is a struggle, which, yeah, it is. But then he lumps them in with straight, white, cisgender men when stating who has privilege in society. Which is it, man?
Number 7. I really wish they would protest peacefully. Of course you do. They're easier to ignore that way. And what you really want for them is to die more quietly. People of colour have been peacefully protesting for hundreds of years. It hasn't been all that successful. The reason riots and violent demonstrations work is because it makes people, especially white people, uncomfortable. You can't ignore them when they're waving torches in your faces. It scares you. It puts you on edge, which is exactly where you need to be. People only pay attention to the extreme. If you have trouble recalling a single one of the hundreds of peaceful protests that BLM held across North America last year, but you can still recall with crystal clarity the 1992 Los Angeles riots, then you've just proven my point.
Alright, this guy's message is all over the place. He's saying here that the violence and riots are necessary because people just ignore the peaceful protesters. But he said earlier that don't act as if the rioting nullifies the message of the peaceful protesters. Are you for the riots or against them? Because you're all over the place here, mate. Second of all, peaceful protests are easier to listen to and they're easier to work with. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the most influential people in the civil rights movement. He understood the effectiveness of peaceful protest. He peacefully fought for what he believed was right. And the lives of black Americans are all the better for it. The Montgomery bus boycott is a great example of peaceful protest achieving great things. It lasted just over a year and was the reason for the desegregation of the bus service, which then had a rippling effect throughout most of society, desegregating a lot of other areas. And what was interesting about that? Completely peaceful. Peaceful protesting will always be the best way to make your point.
Number 8. I don't see colour. Congratulations, you're lying to yourself. Of course you see colour, and that's good. Black people want you to see their colour. Their colours are beautiful, and the very foundation of who they are. If you don't see their colour, then you also don't see their culture. If you don't see colour, then you erase their very identity. If you don't see their colour, then you also can't see the pattern of violence they're confronted with every day. If you don't see colour, then you're blind to more than just racial injustice. You're blind to the world.
Alright, this is an easier one because I've talked about it in a previous video. When I say that I don't see colour, I mean that I don't use someone's race as an indicator of who they are. Because it doesn't matter. If you use someone's race as an indicator of who they are, that is racist. It's the person's ideas, their personality. That's the most important thing. And race doesn't have a bearing on those. As I said in that previous video, it's about who people are, not what they are.
Number 9. They shouldn't have committed a crime. This one is a big one for me. Consider me triggered. A boy who steals a can of pop from a 7-Eleven does not deserve to be shot in the back 3 times. A man illegally selling CDs on the street corner doesn't deserve to be shot to death in front of a record store. A man selling cigarettes on the street does not deserve to be strangled on the streets of Staten Island. A man who runs a red light does not deserve to be shot while reaching for his registration. This isn't about their crimes, it's about racialized policing. Stay on topic.
This is the one that kind of gets a lot of people, because they say that these things happen, but they never actually show us a case of any of these things happening. Name a time when a black person has been shot for any of those reasons. Now, if they have, then that is clearly wrong. Ben Shapiro says, "Show me the instance of racism and I'm happy to fight alongside you against it." I'm with him on that.
And finally, number 10. Black people kill white people too. Yes, murderers exist in every race and walk of life. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking police brutality. And the reality is, black officers are not murdering unarmed white men in the street. That seems to be almost exclusively white officer behaviour. Stop gaslighting.
Wrong. The fact is, black officers are more likely to shoot a black suspect than a white officer. So the statement that this is exclusively white officer behaviour is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. And to be honest, it doesn't even look as if race is the main factor in this at all.
If any of you are guilty of saying any of the above, then I have unsettling news for you. You are the reason it has come to this. You are the reason peaceful protests haven't worked. They haven't worked because you haven't been listening. You haven't been learning. These riots are happening because you have left black people no other choice. These riots are happening because no matter how black people have said it, taking a knee, marching the streets, bumper stickers, banners, signs, or chants, you still don't get it. That doesn't mean you're bad people. That doesn't mean you're racist. It only means you're white. And that's not a crime, any more than being black is. The difference is, police aren't going to shoot you in the street for it.
So, to conclude, it's clear to me that people like Patrick will only complain about a problem without actually getting involved in fixing it. If you want something done right, do it yourself. So my advice to Patrick and to everyone in the Black Lives Matter movement that want to see a change in the police force, join the police force and make the change that you want to see in it. But don't try to make the claim that the rioting is necessary and is any way productive, because it isn't. Martin Luther King Jr. looted nothing, burned nothing, and attacked no one. And he changed the world for the better. So what do you guys think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Non-violence is a powerful and just weapon. It cuts without wounding and ennobles the man that wields it. It is the sword that heals." He also said that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.